Hello everyone, welcome all. So this is Ashwini with you from Go Campus. Now I would like to take this opportunity to welcome and introduce Professor Douglas. So a very warm welcome to you, Professor, and thank you so much for taking time to be with us here today. So Professor is the Consultant General and Vascular Surgeon and is the Dean of Postgraduate Medicine program of Buckingham University. So now over to you, Doctor. A small brief about yourself and about the program, after which we will start with the questions which my team has been collecting. We've been talking about this program on various social media platforms of Go Campus, and we've been receiving many questions from doctors. It is in regard to eligibility, the course structure, the curriculum, and how is it going to be beneficial for IMGs. We have, I think, 40 plus questions that my team has collected. So after this, I'm going to ask Doctor one by one all the questions that you all have asked us. Thank you so much, and over to you, Doctor.
Okay, well, thank you for that introduction. And I would just like to tell you a little bit about Buckingham University, which is the first private medical school in the United Kingdom, established back in 1984. And we had a royal charter thereafter, and the medical school started in 2012 for the undergraduates. We also now have a postgraduate school, and our flagship courses are Masters of Medicine and Masters of Surgery. Now, if you're going to come to the UK to study and progress up the career ladder, you need to get an MRCS if you're going to be a surgeon, or an MRCP if you're going to be a physician. But the colleges can only award these degrees, not the universities. And of course, the colleges don't offer any training programs, so we have to take the best of the university training and the best of the colleges. So what we do actually is allow you to come into the UK in a CT1, CT2 honorary position and get on-the-job training with a mentor in order to do two things. One, pass your MRCS, your MRCP, and also create a dissertation to get your Masters of Medicine and Masters of Surgery. So at the end of 2 or 3 years, you've got 2 degrees, which will help you immensely in your curriculum vitae, and especially with the Masters will allow you to enter medical or higher surgical training.
So I think mostly the question, I think you just gave a brief now, but mostly what doctors have been asking is, can you provide a detailed overview of the program? Structure is what they're asking. Let's say, because we said your placement is going to be in the NHS hospitals during this program. What they're asking is there any curriculum that they're expected to follow, a syllabus kind, or how's the program going to be structured?
It is on-the-job training. In other words, you're participating as a junior doctor with an honorary contract at CT1, CT2. You're not expected to provide any service delivery, but you are able to attend any educational functions within the hospital for your particular group. So there'll be other students in the hospital on the UK training programs also trying to achieve their MRCS and MRCP. But in addition, you get a mentor who's caring for you and advising you on what to read, what to do, and where to go in the hospital. So they'll probably attach you to one of the firms for a few months and will rotate around the specialties to give you the best possible overview of all the subjects you need to pass your exams. And of course, they'll meet you once a week and at least chat it through and make sure you've got any problems, pastoral or academic, and sort you out to make sure your transition is smooth and effective in coming into the NHS. Now, you're not paid for this placement. You pay the University of Buckingham. But under a Tier 4 UK visa, you are allowed to work for 20 hours of paid work per week. And generally speaking, in the hospital you're in, you're likely to be offered a locum post overnight, for example, and that will allow you to get some money towards your expenses. But that isn't guaranteed. The program will progress. We expect you to pass the written papers of MRCS or MRCP, and then towards the end of the time in the hospital, you'll be sitting either the MRCP PACES exam or the MRCS OSCE. And in addition, after that, you need to do a quality improvement project and create a 10,000 word dissertation for either the MRCS or the MRCP.
All right. And doctor, as you mentioned about the locum position, now generally for the locum position, they do expect some experience, right? So they can try for these jobs only kind of after 6 months or after 1 year of their working in this particular hospitals, or how does this work, doctor?
Well, again, nothing's guaranteed, but you tend to find that coming in at a CT1, CT2, once you've got all your bloods and qualifications sorted out, that the hospital is often very happy to take you as a house officer locum, perhaps overnight or for a day or whatever. Now, although we say you can do 20 hours of paid work per week, we're not bothered whether you do it all at once or save it all up and do a week's locum or something like that, provided on average it doesn't exceed that number of hours. And we usually get you to join the bank team in the hospital, and then they tell you when all the available locums are around, and you can select what you want to do yourself.
Okay. And about the program structure, we had another question where many doctors were asking, like, let's say, because the training is happening at the hospital, so they're not expected to come to Buckingham University on any day of the week. That's not required at all? Or is there some contact sessions in the university as well?
No, the university actually is the parent university, but the training is conducted in our hospitals up and down the country. And the idea is that the trainee becomes part of the team in that hospital, participates in ward rounds and endoscopy sessions or theatre sessions, whatever you want to do, and learns on the job with the other students around, except they do not have to function any work for the hospital. They're free to study as and when. And their mentor, for example, will say, well, look, you take 1 day off a week, I want you to do free study, and I'll check on your progress. And then they may say, well, actually, you're a bit short in cardiology, so let's put you into cardiology for a couple of months. Or I think you need to go in surgery for urology and do a bit of that. So they're there to direct and tailor-make the program for you of what you need to successfully pass your exams.
Okay, understood. And doctor, we also had a question now, because they are kind of trainees in these hospitals and they're not getting any salary paid for this job. Will this be considered as NHS experience when they're applying for jobs later on? Or will this just be considered as NHS observership kind of it? Can you throw
No,
some
the
light on it?
fact is that you have to be GMC registered with the right to practice, which means you're a fully fledged doctor in the NHS. Although you're not being given a stipend, you still have an honorary NHS contract. So in effect, it's an NHS position.
Great. Thank you so much, doctor. So now talking about moving to eligibility and entry requirements. And now, what is the eligibility criteria for this program? Now, other day, of course, yes, we spoke where you mentioned you prefer students or doctors having at least 2 years of work experience after MBBS. Is that a must, or do we have some leeway there?
Okay. There are two ways to enter the program. Firstly, you can come in with PLAB 1 and PLAB 2. And if you've got PLAB 1 and PLAB 2, you're usually a few years down the line since graduation. And we can take you directly in a Tier 4 visa. If you wish to come into the Masters of Surgery or the Masters of Medicine program as sponsored, as GMC sponsored, then if the GMC are happy, we can provide a certificate of sponsorship and get you GMC registration as well. Now, under that program, you need to have had 3 out of the past 5 years in clinical practice, not research, and you must have had constant, continuous employment in the last past year.
Okay. So the second track I understood. Now, when we talk about the first track, that is via PLAB, let's say immediately after MBBS, they give their PLAB 1, PLAB 2, so they've taken 1.5 years to finish these steps. But because they were so busy in doing these exams, they do not have work experience. Is that okay, or that's going to be an issue? They have PLAB passed and they have GMC registered. They have full license to practice.
That's not an issue. That's an issue not for the GMC, but for the university. if someone is exceedingly junior, we have to decide if we can help them or not. We're not here to take someone on board and, as it were, take their money and not provide what they need. So we don't actually accept everybody onto the program. We interview, and it's the most important thing is if we can match them to something we can help them with. So, for example, we might say to somebody, well, look, you're overqualified. You really don't need to come and do this with us. Go on your own career. And we often give them career advice. Others, we may say, well, look, you really are very junior. You don't really know much about surgery or much about medicine at this stage. Why don't you do another year in your own country before considering coming to the UK? It's a tough marketplace out there, and we want to make sure that everyone gets value for their time and effort and are successful in passing their exams.
Understood, doctor. And the next question is, does this program require any written entrance exam, or is it an interview based? What is the entry exam to get into this program?
It's an interview with a representative of the university and a representative of the hospital and a lay interviewer who is another professional allied to medicine. And the interview is based on finding out on the candidate's curriculum vitae where they are in their career, what they can do, what they can't do, and can we match their needs with a post in one of our hospitals at honorary level. So the interview is a chat rather than a formal competitive aspect. We're there to chat away and find out what we can do for it. And at the same time, the hospital representative has the final say because they're going to be the educational supervisor. And if they're happy with the student and the student's happy with the educational supervisor, then we can have a team that can go ahead and be successful.
Okay, great. Thank you, doctor. Now, we have many medical graduates. That is, these are the doctors who've done their MBBS from Russia, China. It could be any other country. So they're called as foreign medical graduates. Now, these graduates, mostly they won't have done internship in those countries. Are they eligible to apply for this program, or internship and having a state medical license to practice, is that a mandate thing?
That depends on the GMC. Now, the GMC have a list of specified universities throughout the world that they're happy with and which they're not happy with. And what you have to check is whether the university in which you trained is on their list.
Okay. The only issue is, let's say we have many foreign medical graduates, doctor. What is that? Now, this university is recognized by GMC and they've also passed their PLAB 1 and PLAB 2. But only thing is they don't have their internship. They won't have done internship. So that becomes a little bit of a catch for these doctors to get into FY1 role in the UK. Because if they've not done internship from their home country, then they have to do internship in the UK, right? They have to start from their FY1 role. But these doctors fail to get FY1 role because FY1 slots are very limited. And the English requirement is above 8 to get into the FY1 role. So there they find it a problem. So we have many requests from these doctors who are FMG foreign medical graduates who passed PLAB, but they have not done internship. Maybe I can send you the details by email. You can just see what is the best thing that we can do for them.
So basically, to get into the UK at an FY1 post is almost impossible because these posts are matched to the number of graduates coming out of UK universities. But it's after that point that's a good time to come. In other words, if you've got the PLAB or you want the GMC sponsored course, you've got a little bit of experience, you know what you're doing, and then we pick you to the UK, we give you experience in the NHS, we try and guide you to decide whether you want to pass your MRCS, MRCP and go back home to work, or perhaps stay in the UK and apply for higher training here. So that's the guidance we give. So the best time to come in is after FY1, FY2. And then at the same time, we can help you create your CV for applying for national training numbers in the UK if appropriate.
Sure. Thank you, Doctor. I think we have many FMG related questions, so I'll just leave that because doctors clarified we need FI1 and FI2. And the next question is, Doctor, where many students have asked to get the MEd program, to get, or let's say to get the MEd degree certificate, MEd or MSurg, is there any other exam, or once they finish this 3 years, they're automatically given with this certificate? Let's say if they don't pass their MRCP or MRCS.
Okay, so that's fine. If you come with us and have on-the-job training and do your dissertation, you can pass your MEd or MSurg. But unfortunately, that will not help you to get up the medical ladder. Internationally and in the UK, you need your MRCS or your MRCP. So we're training you to that level, although we simply cannot award that degree. But we're training you to the level of MRCS and MRCP and guiding you towards passing your exam. We can't pass the exam for you, but we can help you to understand what standard you need to achieve in order to pass the exam. So, in summary, your master's degree is simply a generic master's degree for your CV, which gains points in any application form, but to achieve success in your chosen specialty, you need your MRCS or MRCP.
Sure. Thank you, Doctor. And we had, I think, a couple of doctors asking this question. Let's say now MEd is for 3 years, and they pass their MRCP Part 1, Part 2 in 2 years. After that, for some reason, they find out or they figure out that they can do PACES by themselves and they don't go ahead with the third year admission in Buckingham. Then what happens? After the 2 years of program, will they be given MEd certificate, or because they haven't completed all 3 years, we would say that we will not give you MEd?
These programs are up to 3 years and up to 2 years. Basically, we had to make the MEd program 3 years to fit in with the training programs in the UK, who were extended by 1 year from 2 years to 3 years. Now, even in the UK, the students are expected to be passing their MRCP around about the 2 year mark anyway. And the third year is a consolidating year. But from the university point of view, our milestones are the written papers plus MRCP or MRCS. And as soon as you get through that, then you can submit your dissertation, and that's all you need. So there's no strict necessity of doing 3 years, but most people will require that.
Yeah, okay. And now coming to the tuition fees and other details, I think this is what most of the doctors want to know, like kind of the tuition fees for the program. Is it the same for both MRCP and MRCS? Or is there any difference, or is there any variation amongst both the programs?
Okay. The tuition fees are based on the fees required for an overseas graduate coming to any university post in the UK, which is just over £34,000 per year. And these monies would be paid no matter what course you did in any university. That's the standard fees. So the fees is the same between MRCS and MRCP. Yeah, fees are standard, I'm afraid. They are quite high, but if you come in with PLAB 1 and PLAB 2, that's all you have to pay per annum. If you want GMC sponsorship, which actually means getting a GMC registration with the right to practice, then it will cost you an extra £7,900, which is non-refundable if the GMC turn you down. So we advise you, if it's worthwhile, going for GMC registration. And to date, I haven't had anyone turned down, but we have to take the advice of the GMC. So it's our job to make sure you present it appropriately with the appropriate background, 3 years out of 5 and constant employment in the past year, etc. All the little details they require before we submit.
Understood. So for PLAB part doctors, there is no any scholarship available, but the benefit for them is they don't have to pay that extra added fee which other students are paying for the GMC registration.
Correct.
Because they already have. Okay. I think, and also we have many doctors asking us about the training location, doctor. I mean, where will they be trained? Because, I think they're asking about the hospital or the location. This is what they're asking.
We have got surgeons in Blackpool, Milton Keynes, Stoke Mandeville, Colchester and Macclesfield coming on board. And for medicine, we currently have Stoke Mandeville, Milton Keynes, South Warwick possibly, and Leighton Hospital in Crewe possibly just about to come on.
Okay, great. Thank you, Doctor. Now, we have a couple of students who have been asking, does this program guarantee job placement after completion of the course? I think you can answer.
The short answer is no. It's competitive. Now, to get into, for example, higher surgical training, there is a national scheme for numbered posts, and the application is based on a points system. In other words, the more courses you do, the more presentations you perform, the more degrees you have, your Master's of Surgery, Master of Medicine, for example, the more points you get and makes you eligible to move on to the national training program at a reasonable level. And it's the same in MRCP. The more you have on your CV, the more chance you have of getting into these national training numbers.
Okay. But if they want for non-training position, I think that's easier to get, right, Doctor, after 3 years. Of course, training position, they have to compete.
Well, non-training positions are available throughout. And what tends to happen to our trainees is that they've been in a hospital for 2 years or more, and they get to know the consultants in that hospital. And at the end of their degree program with Buckingham, they're then looking for a tier 2 job. And often a tier 2 job will come up in the hospital where they've been training, which secures their immediate future. And it gives them time also to move forward and find further opportunities in the national training scheme.
Okay, great. I think we have questions on program recognition and all this. I think I can answer. We don't, because doctors already clarified that. I think these are majorly the major questions. Rest all looks a bit more repetitive, which I think my team will handle when we are talking to them.
I think the important thing the students need to know is that the master's programs are not a guarantee to success anywhere. They're a generic program. But because the universities cannot award an MRCS or an MRCP, we have to do this hybrid blended system because the ideal program simply doesn't exist in the UK. But our master's programs are based on getting to the MRCP, MRCS level, and we ask them to do a dissertation as well to qualify them as a master's degree. So if they do and work hard, they can get both their master's degree and their MRCS or MRCP, which makes them very competitive in the job market in the UK.
Okay. And Doctor, will they have access to e-portfolio and all that like have other candidates to write from the start?
Yeah, the e-portfolio is available. It can be purchased, and you can use any e-portfolio you like. We're not really worried about it. So long as we are recording all your activities that you have and you can present that, as it were, at the end of 2 years, we're quite happy. That's our on-the-job training, where we do, the case-based discussions, the practical skills, and all the other things you do at that level of CT1, CT2 in your hospital.
Okay. Now, let's say, Doctor, if I have to summarize this, let's say doctors who join this program, the Buckingham MMed or MSurg program, let's say we go with MSurg now, they finish their 2 years of training program in accredited hospitals of Buckingham University. They're expected to pass their MRCS Part 1 and Part 2, after which though it is honorary position, they do get the work experience similar to what the other normal doctors get as they're working in the NHS hospital. After they complete this training and after they get the required qualifications, they're eligible to apply for ST3. That is, after they finish their CT1, CT2, they can apply for the ST3 level, right? For that, yep. Buckingham supports and guides them.
Yes. So they could apply for CT3, ST3 on a competitive basis, but they can still get a normal trust grade job as a tier 2 job somewhere. So, and many UK graduates have to mark time as well before progressing up the ladder, depending how competitive their specialty is. Yeah, that's fine.
And coming to the tuition fee part of it, Doctor, is it the payment is once in a semester or is it yearly once?
It's paid per annum.
It's okay. Done. And will there be any support? Let's say they're placed in a particular hospital. Will there be any support to figure out the reasonable accommodation, other things and all, or all that has to be done by themselves?
Yes. I mean, the hospital to which they're appointed, the mentor will look after them from the clinical point of view, but there's an HR department. There's often a representative who liaises with the university. We understand what we try and do is give them accommodation on arrival, gives them time to look around to get rented accommodation. Sure. And if they need references, then the hospital will give them references for private accommodation. So it works out in practice. That's what I'd like to say.
Sure.
And of course, many people coming to the UK have got many relatives in the UK, and they often come in and stay with them and find their feet, etc. And often they choose the location of the hospital based on people they know and are friendly with.
Sure. And mostly sometimes doctors say the hospital accommodation is very reasonable. They can save quite a lot compared to taking private accommodations outside.
Hospital accommodation, we always make sure they've got somewhere to come when they arrive, but they'll only give hospital accommodation for a limited number of weeks because there simply isn't enough to go around. But it does let the student find their feet.
Sure. I think that's all. We almost have it. So I think we are done, Doctor. If in case I have missed something, if you feel that it would be good to cover this particular question as well, you can let us know.
No, Ashwini, that's great. Thanks very much indeed. I hope I didn't stutter and stumble too much.
No. It's all fine.
I mean, your students just need to know that this is a competitive world and no one's going to spoon feed them. But I think if I could just answer a little bit about the on-the-job training. Yes, they are supernumerary. They don't have any fixed commitments unless what their educational supervisor suggests would be good for them to do. But if you don't roll your sleeves up and join a team and join a firm and do a little bit of on-call and emergency work here and there, you don't learn very quickly. So the more you throw yourself into this position, the more you learn and the faster you learn. So remember, it's postgraduate education. You're not spoon-fed like you were as an undergraduate. So it's not just coming to a new country, it's actually coming to be a postgrad rather than an undergraduate. And that's quite a change for many people. And it's sometimes difficult for them to get the idea that they've got the free run of the hospital to go and see what they want, but actually they're in charge of their own education and doing their own reading, okay, under supervision, but at the end of the day, they've got to roll their sleeves up and do it.
And Doctor, the COS, that's for the Tier 4 visa. The sponsor letter will come from Buckingham, right?
Yes. Okay. The Buckingham organises the T4 visa. And in terms, if you need GMC registration, we will sponsor that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor, for your time. It was really, really very informative. And I'm very sure I've asked all the questions that we've received on social media. And to all the doctors, please don't worry. We have all the answers for your questions. My team will be there to talk to each one of you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.